Come one, come all, and welcome to Tea Time with T-Cross.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another edition of Tea Time with T-Cross. I have a guest today, but before I get to the guest, my father was on a phone call at work the other day. He works with people that live in India. A person from India that works with my father, I guess, Googled my father, found my podcast, and then told my dad that he watches my podcast. So I hope I don't get my father in trouble on this podcast from one of his coworkers. But I wanted to give a shout out to Ankur Dixit, who lives in India. Shout out to you. Thank you for watching. So now let's get to the guest. My guest today is a buddy I went to college with. Great guy. He has he's trying to take off his rap career. He's a fucking excellent artist. And just an all-around good dude. So everybody say hello to Gary Williams-Jones, also known as G. Willikerz. What's up, buddy?
Yo, man, that was a hell of an intro. I don't know if I earned all that, but yeah, man, appreciate it. Glad to be here. Long time to talk, too.
Yeah, man, no, you definitely earned it. So I originally reached out to you about having you on the podcast, months ago during the when the whole George Floyd thing happened, and we just... timing couldn't get it worked out, but you're finally here. So, Do you want to talk about that, or is that not that it's old news? Not to say that it's old news, but that happened several months ago. So we can go into that. Your rap career, where you want to start?
Bro, I'm down for whatever. We can talk about all the above. I'm on the ship. You're steering it. Let's do it. Just do what you want to do, man.
All right. So before we get into one of those two things, I've been wanting to talk about this on the podcast, but I wanted to talk about it with a guest. Are you aware of the Armie Hammer situation?
Armie Hammer. I feel like I've heard something about Armie Hammer recently, but I don't think I'm fully up to date on that.
All right. Let me catch you up. So Armie Hammer, some lady released text messages or DMs, whatever, with him. Apparently, he has a cannibal fantasy where in the text messages, he's telling this girl, I want to cut you open, I want to fuck your wound, I want to eat your heart, I want to see and hold and feel your brains between my fingers.
Jesus Christ.
And it's I'm shocked. I don't even know what else to say about it. It was stuff like that. And I don't want to say that I feel bad for him because it's weird, but the woman that released the text messages blocked out her response. So he was clearly responding to something that she was saying, and then she released them. So I kind of almost feel bad for the guy.
What the fuck? Bro, I heard there was ramblings about Armie Hammer, but I didn't know why.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he wants to fuck wounds and eat hearts and see brains.
Me too, but all right. I just keep it to myself. Shit.
Yeah, right. But the worst part was that this girl was clearly egging him on because he was, it was clearly a conversation back and forth, but she blocked out what she said.
Yeah,
and she released them anonymously, so it's not like we can also shame her. She's like, oh, keep my name out of this, news organizations, but blame that guy. And now apparently he's getting a whole bunch of DMs with girls that also have this fantasy. So it's he won. He's gonna get what he wants.
I was about to say, it's I don't think he really lost out on anything.
Yeah, no.
I guess if you wanted to keep that to yourself and now it's out there, that's kind of ass. But it takes two to cannibal, so clearly she was with him. She was clearly in there trying to do it too. Oh, shit.
Yeah. The only loss that he had, he was supposed to, he got an acting job that he was supposed to start filming soon, so they, decided to cancel him and recast it. But he's like, I can either film this movie or live out my fantasy, because now everyone's DMing me about fulfilling it. So, I think he's doing okay.
So he's actually spoken on it?
No, not really. He has in the past posted pictures and, had captions about cannibalism in the past, but it was kind of I guess people assumed it was a joke, and he hasn't said anything yet, but I imagine that he's pretty stoked.
Oh, shit. Bro, I was not aware. Holy shit.
Yeah, he's having a good time.
Yeah, the best time.
Yeah, clearly.
Talk to any of us.
So let's get into the racial inequality and the George Floyd thing. So
absolutely.
So back when that happened, what I wanted to speak to you about was First of all, what were your thoughts on the whole thing? And now, several months removed, the results of what came from it. What are your thoughts on all that?
So a lot. So the thing is, I guess the thing that makes this especially like interesting for me is that George Floyd was actually killed on my birthday.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it happened on May 25th of last year, and that's my birthday.
Oh damn.
Yeah. So like, in the midst of me trying to like, it was such a weird time. Like, not to make it like about me, but I guess from my perspective, it was like. My birthday was already kind of weird and fucked because of all like the racial. It was all Breonna Taylor had happened in March and everything, and like COVID was happening. My job, like I was at a spot where like my job security was kind of up in the air, so I didn't know what was happening. And then my birthday had come along, and I'm just trying to enjoy it. And then this whole fucking thing happens, and it was just like one thing after another. So like that was kind of like chilling for me. It was like while I'm celebrating my life, the country is like mourning the loss of a life kind of at the same time. So like that whole thing really kind of really disturbed me. And like watching that video in and of itself was hard because like I kind of like came across it by accident. Because you know like that autoplay thing on Facebook where like you're watching a video and then it automatically scrolls to the next one.
Yeah. That's
kind of how I came across it. And, like, I had heard people kind of talking about it, like, you know, for, like, in a couple statuses, maybe, like, a couple hours prior. And I was like, I didn't really know what anyone was talking about. Then I found myself watching the video, and, like, the whole thing just unfolded. And, like, I remember just getting, like, sick to my stomach and being like, whoa, I don't know what I just saw, but I feel like this is huge. And then, of course, it turned into everything it turned into. Yeah, man, I had a lot of opinions about that. Like, of course, on the surface, like, it was hard. It was hard to bear. It was very, you know, kind of like chilling to watch it happen, and just it seemed like so inhumane. But then, like, I guess to talk about it from another perspective, I don't consider myself like a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. But there are definitely situations where sometimes I'm like, this doesn't really add up. Mm-hmm. And like upon doing a lot more research on that situation, like there was like a lot of facts uncovered about like. That thing, like, apparently, I found some things that said that, like, Derek Chauvin and George Floyd knew each other. Mm-hmm. That they were, like, both, like, Freemasons in the same, like, lodge or something like that. Like,
I didn't hear that. I heard that they both worked as like, security guards at a club or something in the past.
Yeah, I heard that, too. Then I mean, I don't know how much of this is true, of course, because the internet can make whatever happen. But, yeah, I heard the thing about them knowing each other and about them previously working together, but I also saw something that said they were both Freemasons, and there were like pictures of them together. And like the picture that I saw, one dude was definitely George Floyd, but there was another dude that like could have been the guy, but it could have been somebody else.
Yeah.
So it was like a lot of things saying that like it was all like staged, and like George Floyd was like they were doing it to make like a statement or something like that. But like there was just so much shit happening around it. It like I don't want to say it like diluted the original like feeling, but it was just so much going on that it made the whole racial inequality conversation like turn into something else, you know? So I remember that, but just that overall image and the overall just the process of that whole thing happening and how like dehumanizing it was, I remember was just the thing that stuck with me the most, and how like heartless people were being about it, about just how people were just so quick to. I hate the population of people that the first thing that they do when someone dies is try to dehumanize them by bringing up their past, for one. That was my biggest thing. Like above like of course this is about race, but above that, like when people get like killed and it's like, oh, he's a piece of shit, or like, oh, he was a gang member, or like, he used to beat his wife and all this other shit. And it's just like I can never understand the people who that's the first place that you go. You know what I mean? Like this person is gone forever. They can't, they're not here to defend themselves. Whatever their legacy is here to stay. But it's just like, why can't we just view a life as a life first and foremost?
Yeah, I agree.
I think that was the biggest like effect that had on me. The amount of people that were sympathizers that were like, well, he wasn't an angel, and it's like, are only angels people that don't deserve to be murdered on camera?
Yeah,
like, that was kind of my take.
And usually that group of people that do that are the people that will write "All Lives Matter."
Exactly.
Which is pretty ironic.
Exactly, which is like, it's like, so what are you really trying to say? It's like whatever point makes you like the contrarian is like all you really care about. It's like, you say all lives matter because you don't want to agree with Black Lives Matter, and when we say justice for this person or this person shouldn't have died or rest in peace, you want to be a contrarian to that too. So you find a way to make that person's death like justified.
Yeah, and then they'll then counter with, like, they'll find a police officer who was murdered, and we're like, well, that guy's life mattered too. You're right, it did, but we're not talking about that guy right now. We're talking about this guy.
Anything to deflect from, like, the topic at hand and make it about someone else.
Yeah. So, what has... I mean, I'm sure you've paid closer attention to what has come out of that whole situation as far as, like, you know, police reform and stuff like that. What has changed, if anything, that was positive from that?
So I guess I look at the changes in a couple different ways. I think one benefit of all this, I guess before I get to the reform part, is that it's forced people to have to be more vocal. In one instance, because it's like, I think, you know, like, systematic racism, racial injustice, and all that is like, you know, it's as American as apple pie. Like, it's here to stay. It's been here, and it's like, but before, I guess, like, recent times, like before, like, I guess you want to go like the, you know, civil rights movement and shit like that, people have kind of more or less been in a place where they could just kind of stay silent and not really like, oh, I don't like to get political, or I don't like to talk on those kinds of things, but like, because it was so in our face, because, like, all the conversations were so blatant that it was in, like, in every space and every workspace and every social circle, people were being kind of forced to take a stance and like kind of like, it's not enough to be, you know, it's not enough to not be racist. You have to be vocally anti-racist. You know, it's not enough to just, you know, it's not enough to just say, to acknowledge, like, white privilege or anything like that, but you have to actively be working to educate yourself and, you know, have those uncomfortable conversations and things like that. So one thing that I think came out of this that was a good thing is that it forced people to show who they really are. Like, I know I personally, like, had a lot of people that I went to, like, high school and college with that, like, showed their true colors, you know, in a lot of ways. And it's just like, it wasn't like kind of that passive ignorance where it's like, oh, I don't know any better, so I don't speak on it. But just like, no, you're making your stance on this very clear. Yeah. You're showing who you are as a person, and it's like, it's letting me know how you view the world around you. And it's just like, all right, well, thank you for that. You know, I needed that. I need to know who's in my corner and who's not. Right. So I think that's one really good thing that, like, it's like a bittersweet good thing that came from this. You know, everyone showed their true colors. People gave their stances. People were forced to pick a side and not be one of those, like, oh, I'm neutral. I don't want to do politics. You know, I don't want to, you know, make myself uncomfortable. So I prefer that, because it's just like, you know, I want to be able to look my enemy in the eye. Like, to be absolutely. Like, I don't want any of that, like, in the middle shit where it's like, you know, people just want to, like, ride the fence. So I think on a social level, I think that's been a big benefit. I think another great thing is that it's kind of forced people to become a little more educated in the terms of, like, law and, like, you know, practices about, I guess, like, how to make things happen. Like, you know, of course people wanted to protest, of course people wanted to make their voices heard, but, like, in order to do so, people wanted to get to the bottom of things. So you find more people, like, actually learning, like, you know, what goes into making reform happen. You're finding people kind of doing more research on what's being taught in, like, police academies and shit like that. And it's like, you're getting more information that's getting out there. People are, like, doing research on behalf of the people and, like, releasing statements like, hey, here's who I found out about this. Here's the lawmaker or the governor or whatever that you have to email to make these things happen. So I think just the fact that we're, like, because we're, like, our generation is, like, the people who aren't afraid to be rebels, people who aren't afraid to just, like, you know, stand up for what we believe in. I think that's kind of been the best thing, that people are utilizing this age of information to not just only complain and bitch and say things need to change, but, like, also make public knowledge what those methods to change are. Right. So I think for me, that's probably my biggest, like, thing that I take away from this. Like, of course, like the progress that's been made in, like, the Breonna Taylor case, like, the cops being, you know, of course it's never going to be good enough. Like, the cops, you know, they lost their jobs and everything, but, like, it's showing that, like, public unrest and public outcry is, you know, rebellion is the voice of change overall. You know, like, and that's, like, another thing to kind of take a step back. It's like so many people, like, the same people who are like, oh, why does it have to be, you know, why does it have to be, like, looting and destruction and things like that? And, like, why can't they do it peacefully? And it's just like, have you ever taken a fucking history class? Yeah. Like, do you look at the shit from, like, that we read in history books about the greatest rebellions in history and all, and, like, all the marches and all the, like, You do not know about the blood, sweat, and tears that has backed every single major change that's ever happened in this fucking country.
The Boston Tea Party, like
yeah, right. It's like, again, as American
big
as
example.
apple pie, rebellion.
Yeah.
Racism and rebellion are all American. So it's like people who are that take that stance of like, why do we have to be so violent about it? It's just like you clearly don't get how change works. When people are polite and say pretty please and get down on knee and wait for people to like pat them on the head and say, sure, you can have it. That's not how you get anything done in this fucking country.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you expect?
Yeah, I totally agree. So one of the things you mentioned there was, being vocally anti-racist and, being just in general more vocal about essentially the right thing. So one of the things when I did that podcast right after that whole thing happened is I was asked, because I had, a couple of my friends who are people of color and asked, what can I do to be better? Because, when I'm currently banned on Facebook, but back then, I was, sharing stuff, Black Lives Matter. I was trying my best to educate people. There was a protest in my local town that I took part in as well. So what can I do as a white guy to be better? You know what I mean by that?
Yeah. So for one, I always appreciate just that question because I think it takes a lot to admit that you need to be part of the solution.
Mm-hmm.
I think not a lot of people want that. Not a lot of people are willing to put that responsibility on themselves. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people don't want to. It's like kind of like the white people that don't want to admit that white privilege exists because they feel like they're accepting fault for something. You know what I mean? The people that think like, oh, if I say there's white privilege, I'm accepting, like I'm saying that slavery was my fault or something like extreme like that. And it's like, no, you're just acknowledging a thing that's existed for a long time and realizing that, hey, well, fuck, even if I don't actively contribute to it, I benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to acknowledge that first, that like I wish more people, I guess, had enough security in themselves to kind of have those kinds of conversations. So I appreciate that. I guess my biggest thing is like, I guess the thing that whenever I'm in a situation with any of my like white friends, I ask, are you willing to defend the cause even when you're in rooms with with no people of color? Like, if you're around, like, if you're in a room full of white people and you're the only one who thinks the way that you do, be it family, friends, loved ones, and they are anti the cause, are you still willing to stand up for it?
Right.
And risk being ostracized, risk being, maybe possibly severing ties with certain family members if they believe strongly enough. Like, I have friends that are like that. Like, I've had, I supervise student staff members for a living, college students, and I've been doing that for the last, 4 or 5 years professionally. And I've had some of my old students that I'm still in touch with hit me up and say, hey, Gary, I'm in a really tough position. Like, I'm white. I come from a very white conservative family, and I can't even have dinner table discussions because all my family are, anti-Black Lives Matter. All my families are, hardcore, keep America great, white supremacy Trumpers. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the things that they think, and I don't really know what to do. I want to educate them, but they're resistant, or I'm worried about losing contact with them. And I've had people say that to me, and it's just that's rough. You know what I mean? Of course, it's not as rough as racism, but it's rough. So I can understand from their perspective how being in that position could be difficult for somebody. And again, not everybody is willing to bear that burden and say all right, I'm willing to lose contact with my extended family, or even sometimes even your direct family, just to stand up for what I know is right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, that's not my answer to give you. So it's my biggest thing is make sure my biggest point is make sure your support is not performative.
Okay. Make
sure it's sincere. So when you're in rooms with no people of color, when you're in rooms with family, friends, all white people.
And no cameras too. So nobody sees what you're doing. No
spot where you can show, of course, arguing with your family on Facebook and people seeing you do it is one thing, which is kudos for that too, because it's, kind of putting on a shit show, but whatever. But if there's no one there to pat you on your back for your support, are you still going to do it?
Right.
That's what it really comes down to for me. And it's and if your answer is yes, I appreciate that. But also understand what comes with that and have those conversations with yourself in advance. What am I going to do if I, go to my family reunion with my extended relatives that I haven't seen in 5 years, and they tell me, oh, I don't understand this whole Black Lives Matter thing. Are you willing to take that breath and have that conversation with them? If
Gotcha.
That's really how you feel.
Right. and I am, and I have.
Right.
So yeah. Yeah, so let's bring it to a positive here. Your music. Let's move into the music here. So how long have you been making rap music for? Like, you know, are you one of those people that like, oh, when I was 4 years old, I wrote a nursery rhyme on my my notepad, and that's where it all started. So like, where did it all start for you?
Yeah, certainly. So for me, it started as poetry. So I was always very naturally good at poetry. Like I think I want to say my earliest memory is maybe like third or fourth grade, when you kind of start, you know, because of course you kind of learn how to write, and, you know, do cursive, and then you start getting to like sentences and shit like that, and like, you know, sometimes I think, you know, I think it's like around like third or fourth grade is when they start making you do like class journals and shit where you write about your day, you know, stuff like that. So like you start kind of getting a working understanding of language and writing and words and shit like that, and then you get into like poetry. So from the moment that I learned about poetry, I found myself being very good at it. I was always good at rhyming. I was always good at kind of stringing words together. I was always good at kind of having like, I guess like a vernacular and like a language choice that was very advanced for my age. I kind of compared to my like classmates. So I was always good at poetry. I really enjoyed it. Like I remember in middle school, I got published in this like little like preteen poet book that was like that kind of came out. So like I was always pretty good at it. And then I would say it turned into rap when I got to, I want to say maybe 10th or 11th grade. I started rapping kind of like ironically, kind of like as like a joke. I was doing like kind of like spoofs, kind of like I would take like a popular song and like remix it and just add my own lyrics to it as like a joke. Like I wasn't really taking myself seriously. Sometimes with my friends, sometimes alone. But it was one of those things where it's like the stuff that I was writing was like good, but it was like a joke, you know. But I didn't present it like I took it seriously. And then I kind of just stuck with it. And then I got to college, my freshman year of college. A buddy of mine that I met through the theater department because I was a theater major. He was a rapper, and he found out that I could rap a little bit. I showed him some of my videos, and he kind of just took me under his wing and was like, "Yo, we're a duo now. We're rapping." And I'm like, "Fucking okay,
okay, whatever you say.
Let's do it." And his name is Lewis, but his rap name at the time was Skeptic. And he was just like, "Oh, well, you need a rap name." And I just like, without really thinking about it, I was like, "I'm G Will. Yep, Gary William Jones. G Will. Yep, let's do it." And that was like kind of all I really thought about it. So we were G Will and Skeptic. It's hilarious because our first duo was named Two Step for no fucking reason, because. You think two-step, you think like dancing. We didn't dance. There was nothing dance about who we were, but it was one of those things where it's like it's the first name you land on, so you just fucking keep it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were two-step for absolutely no reason, and we made this mixtape called Initiation, because we were both Greek. Like I was in a fraternity, he was in a fraternity, and we were like hip hop's first pledge class. Even though like none of our songs had anything to do with being Greek, it was a really dumb concept. It's just kind of shit that happens when you're like 18. And so we just started like rapping, and like at this time I went to Fairleigh Dickinson Madison, which is up in North Jersey.
Okay.
So we like everyone kind of around us knew that we were rapping, and that we kind of like sort of took ourselves seriously, even though we weren't really that good, because we were using like super cheap equipment and recording in like someone's closet. It was dumb, but you know,
gotta start somewhere, bro.
That was my first time really like, all right, I'm a rapper now, and like so we kind of stuck with it. So kind of fast forward, I ended up kind of not going back to that school, so me and him kind of lost our partnership because I live in South Jersey, he lived in North Jersey, so it wasn't really easy for us to work together anymore. So that's, I guess, when my quote-unquote solo career began, and I kind of just kept doing music, doing freestyles, things like that. And then I put my first mixtape on Dat Piff in like 2013. And
damn, that long ago.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's like around the time that I discovered like SoundCloud and shit as well. So I was putting up tracks, everything with the quality was like terrible. But you know, I was.
What were you recording on?
Yeah.
What were you recording on?
I was recording on literally a So my family had this American Idol game for PlayStation 2. And it came with this really bad quality microphone. That it was like a USB mic that you plugged into the back of the PlayStation 2. And I was literally using that to record.
Nice.
So I took a stocking cap and I wrapped it around it with a rubber band as like a clip guard.
Uh-huh.
and I would record into that in my mom's laundry room, and I was using Audacity on my computer.
Okay. Yeah, when I first started doing podcasts, I was recording with the microphone that came with the Rock Band game.
Mm-hmm.
And after like 2 or 3 episodes, Benny Panella sent me a message. He's like, dude, this sound quality is fucking horrific. Like, I have a microphone that I don't use. Please use it. And it's the one that I still use today. But he's like, I can't listen to it anymore. It's so bad. You have to use a better microphone. I'm like, if you're giving me a free microphone, fucking please. Like, these things are expensive. Yeah.
Humble beginnings. So yeah, that's what I was recording into. So I made my first mixtape back then. Again, quality was like not good, but like the content and everything was pretty good. And then I kind of just stayed at it, you know, of course. And then I ended up transferring to Rowan, and that's where we met, Lyrical Alliance and everything. So I kind of kept it going then. And I linked up with dudes like, you, Joe Penn, Trip, kind of just kept it going there, Josh Howard. And so that was kind of like the intermediate phase for me. I wasn't really taking music as seriously then. And then I did my first show at like a house show in Williamstown. And I performed with a couple bands, and it went over pretty well. It was like super small. It was maybe like 20 people crowded into like a living room, but it went over really well. And then I would say it kind of just kept going from there. So I would say when I started rapping, when I consider myself rapping seriously, is about 2016. So that was when I got my logo and officially started going by G. Willikerz. So of course
Excellent name, by the way.
Huh?
Excellent name, by the way.
Oh, appreciate it. So before then I was just G Will because it's just kind of what I landed on first. But then I like actually took it, unpacked it, like really branded it, realized like kind of who I wanted to be as an artist. In 2016 is when I really started, the name G Willikerz and like started like being like I got the bottle cap logo. I started really taking myself seriously. I started putting more like effort and money and quality into my art and like really saying like, yo, this is something that I really want to pursue. Yeah, and it's been good ever since then. After that I put out my first like real good quality mixtape, and I put out 2 albums since then that are on all major platforms.
So I have I guess I missed them somewhere. So I have 2 of your. I guess I have 1 album and 1 mixtape on my phone, my iTunes. I have Golly, and I have the second. So what am I missing?
You're missing my first album, Odds and Ends.
Okay. Where can I find that? On iTunes? It's on everything?
Yep. It's on iTunes. It's on whatever you use to listen to music streaming services. It's also on my Bandcamp if you want to buy it and support me more directly. It's up to you.
Yeah. I purchased your album from the Bandcamp. Fucking excellent, by the way. Have you sent it to any sort of music label, or do you know anybody that works in a music industry type? So how do you get yourself to the next level?
Yeah, so that's kind of the phase I'm in now. So I don't know anybody who works for any major music label, but that's why I'm trying to kind of expand right now, do any kind of press that I can and get it out there. I'm just mostly trying to network through my social media presence and everything like that. I'm trying to work for whatever that next level is. And all I really have at this point is kind of my direct like network of my peers, and I'm just hoping it falls into the right hands if I shop it around enough. I'm not letting up this year. I have music videos planned. I really plan on, taking this album as far as I possibly can, man.
What are you working on right now? You working on another album, or are you just strictly working on, getting the word out about yourself?
Definitely getting the word out. So I have 2 music videos planned. One is done. The other one needs to be edited. And one of those I'm trying to release within the next couple of weeks to kind of keep the attention on the album. Because that's the hardest part. So, like, of course, right now we're in this phase where, like, attention span is, like, like that. That we're always on to the next thing, especially when it comes to music. Like, it's never been easier to make music. You don't even need you barely need studio equipment. You can make an entire project from your living room. You know. Yeah. So there's constantly new music coming out pretty much every Friday. There's a new album, and like just the landscape has changed. Even back in like 2012 up to like 2010 to 2014, we were still like buying albums and like listening to them for a very long time. But now we're in an era where the shelf life of an album might be a week before you stop talking about it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the hardest part, getting people to still care. So like, my album was really well received when it first came out. I was getting a lot of love. A lot of people were reaching out to tell me they really liked it and enjoyed it. But the hardest part is like keeping it in people's minds. That's why I'm doing the music videos. That's why I'm like adding visuals to the stuff that people already like. That's why I'm trying to do stuff like this, interviews, podcasts, whatever. It allows me to talk about it, let people know I'm serious about this, spread the word. And just kind of like, my biggest thing right now is support. Like all artists start off as local artists. The thing that gets people talking is when they see the likes, they see the plays, they see the following, they see that you have something as an artist that people gravitate towards.
Right.
So that's what I'm working on now. Showing that like I'm enough of a big deal to actually garner an audience.
So how did COVID affect you in the music at all? Like, did you have shows planned that ended up getting canceled, and as far as shooting music videos last year, like how did all that shit affect you last year, and still today, if so?
So it's funny because like COVID equally hurt and helped me musically. Because the album was all recorded in the midst of COVID. So like when COVID first hit and we all had to stay inside and everybody was like super confused and terrified and not sure what was going to happen, like I had crazy like artistic disconnect. Like I didn't have enough like I just wasn't in a creative space to create any kind of music, man. And so like for the first couple months of COVID, I wasn't able to write anything. And then once I kind of finally knocked out one song. So like if you listen to the album, there's a song on there called Grays that's actually the first real song that I made on the album. And it was kind of like the purpose of that song was to kind of clear my brain so I could actually start making other songs, because it's like a very personal song. It's kind of everything that I was dealing with at the time. And so I made it, and initially I was just going to kind of scrap it. Like, all right, now that I got everything out of my brain, I can start making more music. And then I ended up keeping it on the album. So COVID really had me fucked up for a while, and it really stifled my artistic process. But then once I really got going, it started just flowing. Songs just started coming one after the other, and then slowly but surely, I came up with the entire album within about 4 or 5 months. And but the area that I would say it held me back was that this very much was a year where I planned on performing more, doing like open mics, finding different platforms and mediums to kind of build that support, because that's a great way to kind of get people to support you, going out to different, different platforms and mediums, and, letting people see you perform in real life so they can see your passion, they can see your delivery, they can see you're the real deal, getting people to follow you and, share your shit. So that was my plan. I had an entire kind of rollout plan for this year. And I wasn't able to do that. So, I mean, I've gotten some invites to like some virtual kind of concerts and things like that. But at the time, I just really wasn't feeling it because it just didn't feel the same.
Yeah.
I might, that might be an arena that I get into within the near future, just because I'm so like desperately trying to get this album heard.
Yeah, that's got to be so difficult to try to get your shit out there, and then COVID hits. You can't go anywhere. You can't perform, and they're like, "You want to do it on Zoom?" I'm like, not really.
Right. Seriously. It's like not so much, but like if it's all I have, I'm not gonna, performer's gotta perform, but so it's like it's kind of weighing what's more important.
Where do you get your inspiration from? Like things that happen in your life, different artists, your peers, your family life, your personal life. What drives you to make music and start writing stuff down? Is it various things or one specific thing that you really get it from?
Yeah, so a little bit of everything. So I've always been a very autobiographical artist. Like I draw directly from what I've lived, what I've experienced, and like perspective, honestly. I guess in short, my answer would be perspective. Like I've always felt as though in all aspects of life, like since I was younger, I've always felt like I had a very unique perspective. Like I always felt like I thought just a little bit different than people around me, or like I just had a way of viewing the world or articulating things that was like not similar to my peers. And I felt like I've always had like the gift of gab. I've always been somebody that like when I talk, people listen, or like I have the ability to command a room whether I'm trying to or not, which is kind of why I got into theater. But even outside of that, just like in my social circles and my in just different things that I would try, and like any kind of setting, I always noticed that I had an knack for being compelling. Even if I was just kind of like fucking around, people would like stop what they were doing and listen. So that was kind of part of it. It's just like, all right, clearly I have a voice that people listen to. So like, what should I use it for?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so like I said, I draw definitely inspiration from my life. Like everything I talk about in my music is reflective of my life. Serious stuff, funny stuff, love life stuff. Kind of everything in between. Definitely, I talk about like my upbringing, my perspective, being like, I don't come from like serious hardship. I'm not like somebody that like, was like homeless or like super poor or couldn't eat, but like at the same time, I'm not somebody that comes from an extremely privileged background either. So I kind of got to see a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I did go to college. I do have a master's degree, but at the same time, it's like I've experienced my own forms of hell. My own forms of hardship through like relationships, mental health, family life. Different households. So it's like essentially finding my own unique way to kind of tell stories that I think other people can identify with is kind of really what my driving force is. And finding a way to do it in a way that is inherently me, that's unique, that's kind of like, I never would have thought to say that like that.
Mm-hmm.
And also drawing inspiration from some of my favorite artists, adding personality into things that I do, and I guess trying to be a voice that people really identify with.
Right. So one thing that I would imagine was inspirational for you, you posted a video. I want to say it was about a year ago. It could have been longer, where your father ran into KRS-One.
Yes.
Please go into detail on that. And if you don't know who KRS-One is, do your fucking homework. Please, like, I watched the whole video when you posted it. I was like fucking amazed. And have you been in contact with KRS-One since that happened, or was that kind of like a freak sort of thing? Go into detail about that video.
Sure. Yeah. So, all right. So my father lives in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he has worked in hotels, hospitality for a while. Like the last maybe like 15 years, he's been working in hotels. So like over the course of his life, he's actually met and come in contact with a lot of famous people. Just because he's a bellman, so like a lot of times he's like the first person they see. He's the one that like escorts them to their room, like kind of just chops it up, shoots the shit with them. Like so he's had like relatively famous people like tip him, like he's ran into like some famous like athletes, musicians, and they've like been like, oh, you're a really dope guy. Like, and my dad's like a really eccentric guy. He's like I don't know, like cliche of course, but like he's really like me, like 40 years older, like so like he kind of has a way of talking to people. So he's met some people over the course of his life that, like, just casually. But how this happened was, so KRS-One was in Pittsburgh for, like, I think it was for some type of, like, hip-hop seminar or something like that, because KRS-One is, like, a professor now. I don't know
really?
The exact place that he teaches or if it's, like, a traveling thing, but he does, like...
Wow.
He does legitimately go around and, like, talk about hip-hop and, like, and, like, writing and things like that. So I want to say that he was in town in Pittsburgh for something of that nature, and my dad just happened to be outside and, like, saw him, like, walking across the street and was like, oh, shit, that's KRS-One. So he kind of caught him and was like, hey, like, how you doing? Like, like, big fan of yours, nice to meet you. And he was like, look, my son is an up-and-coming, hip-hop artist, and, and I'm just wondering if you could just give him some words of wisdom, if you have some time. And that's when he started the camera, and KRS-One was like, yeah, sure.
Wow.
And just kind of went from there.
That's so fucking cool.
Yeah. And it's funny because, like, like the first thing he does in the video is, like, make fun of my name. Which is, like, I don't really give a fuck, because that's good. He's like, oh, gee, Willikerz, I know that's not your MC name. And it's just like, all right, yeah, whatever, man.
It kind of is.
Yeah, it's just like, all right, you're kind of the authority on this, so what am I really going to fucking say?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it kind of just went from there, man. And, like, he just kind of started dropping knowledge, and, like, there's lots of gems in there about, like, the cult, like, if you're for the culture, it's going to work for you, things like that. Like, there was just a lot of really, like, valuable knowledge in there. And that was that. And so we put it online. It went viral. It got up to, like, 2 million views.
Really? Wow. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, and it resulted in me getting a lot of new followers and fans from all over the world.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah, I still, like, up until maybe like a couple months ago, I was still getting people that were adding me from all over the world, being like, "Yo, I saw the video KRS-One, and if you got his blessing, I'm a fan of yours." Or off, things like that, and people that would follow me on Instagram and be like, "Yo, I saw the KRS-One video. You're up next." Shit like that. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, it very much. I'm gonna call it what it was. It very much was kind of just like a right place, right time freak accident.
Right.
Like I'm by no means gonna pretend I know KRS-One, nor does my dad. Nor have I ever had like a conversation with him. I posted the video on Instagram again to kind of give it like a second wind, and I did tag him in it and stuff like that, and it kind of did start to get some views again. But I haven't had any direct contact with him since. No.
Damn, that's still so fucking cool.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Is he one of your all-time favorites, or just because he was a legend? And while you answer that, my camera battery died, so I'm gonna change that real quick. So I'm gonna leave frame. So just talk.
Okay, yeah, no doubt. Yeah, so I mean, of course, he's definitely like a legend. He's one of the, I would consider him one of the like gatekeepers, if not kind of like founding fathers of what we know hip hop to be today. So like, just in and of itself was important. I mean, like KRS-One is not somebody that like, of course, was just because I was born in 1991 and grew up in the. And I guess my real understanding of rap didn't really develop until the 2000s, so naturally KRS-One wasn't really like in my CD player. But he's definitely somebody that of course, when I developed a love for rap, I went back and studied, amongst other people like Rakim, MF Doom, Tribe Called Quest, things like that. So he was definitely one of those people that was like super influential and important. So like you can't mention the origins of hip hop without talking about KRS-One. So
right.
it was definitely just like. I mean, I don't consider myself like a very like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like spiritual guy, or like, oh, this is a sign from the cosmos or anything like that. So like,
yeah,
I didn't really look at it that way. I mean, it was definitely nice to get like the blessing and the go ahead from somebody like that who's like so important to this industry. So like I did, it did kind of put a fire under me to be like, all right, let me do something with this,
Right.
But yeah, it was dope. It was dope.
So you mentioned MF Doom. For those of you that don't know, he just passed away recently, or not even recently. It was like several months ago, but it was his wife just posted about it. Correct?
Yeah, he passed on Halloween.
Halloween, actually. Okay.
But we didn't find out about it until New Year's Eve.
Right. So, was he influential to you? I mean, you mentioned him as one of the greats. So how did that affect you?
Yeah, like when you man, that one was hard for me, man. Like when they say your favorite rapper's favorite rapper, like for real, because like around the time when I first started like taking myself seriously as like a rapper and trying to get better at it, my favorite rapper at the time, my favorite artist just in general was Tyler the Creator.
Okay. Like
I was very into Odd Future, I was very into like Earl Sweatshirt, and like just kind of like just kind of like the kind of like off to the side obscure artists who were kind of making their own lane, and like MF Doom, like Odd Future is very influenced by MF Doom, like they'll admit it and things like that. So like he was literally my favorite rapper's favorite rapper, and like he's Mos Def's favorite rapper. Like, you know what I mean? Like so many people who were so essential to hip hop, like idolize him and value him, and like it was definitely major for me. Like I was a little later to the Doom party. I think I would say I really like took my deep dive into Doom maybe around like 2013, 14, something like that, is when I really like found like his discography and just like was hooked on it. It's like Doom was all I listened to for probably about 3 or 4 months straight, just like everything from like his early stuff to Mad Villain, all that type of stuff. So like, and he definitely was somebody that influenced the way that I structured songs. Like he was so unorthodox. He made each song his own. The way that he did lyricism, that was like some of his references and things like that were all very key in my early days of studying rap music from a technicality point of view. Like,
right.
Because that's something that I try to make it a point to do. Like I made a post about this like a while ago, maybe like a year and some change. It's just like if I were to talk to an upcoming, like a new artist about who to study, like not like who my favorite artist is, but like who do I think like, oh, if you want to be a rapper, these are the people that you should study. I always say MF Doom, Tech Nine, Just from like from a technique point of view, Jay-Z.
I would put Black Thought in there.
Yeah, I would add Black Thought. Like that. That's the thing. Like you ask me on the right day of the week, this list could change.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I would also say, as controversial as it may be, Eminem.
I don't think that's controversial at all. I think a lot of people would think he's the greatest rapper of all time. And if he's not number one, he's definitely up there, regardless of his last few albums, which were kind of lackluster. But he just released. Speaking of Eminem, he just released a new album like a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago. Did you listen to it? And if so, what did you think of it?
What I did it. So wait, wasn't it wasn't it the deluxe of his last album?
Yeah, it was like, I think he called it Side B.
Okay, yeah, I admittedly have not heard it yet. I was a fan of the album itself though. It was good. I think like compared to a lot of it, I mean, comparatively it was good, and I think generally speaking it was good. I didn't absolutely like love it, but generally speaking I enjoyed like 2/3 of the songs on it.
Yeah. So the thing about Eminem, it's like he's had such a big following and had so much success over his career that it became. I mean, I would imagine when he first started, because he started in like the late '90s, right?
Yeah.
Like started blowing up. So I was 6 years old. So I didn't really listen to him until later on. But I would imagine early on it was like, this white guy, he's really fucking good. Every time he battles somebody, he fucks them up. Like, you gotta love this guy. So it became like the thing to love Eminem. Even if you didn't actually like him, it was like, this was the thing. And nowadays, since he, got sober and started making different music where he sounds angry and he's yelling all the time, now it's the cool thing to fucking hate Eminem.
Yeah,
it's like if you like Eminem these days, like you like his new albums, you're an asshole, like you're an idiot. But like,
for real,
he had some bad projects, and he's even admitted, like, talk shit on his own songs, like, yeah, that one was garbage. But I liked it. It's totally different from his old stuff. The Marshall Mathers LP, the Slim Shady LP, the classics that got him to where he is today. But I agree. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it either. I thought it was middle of the pack as far as Eminem goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's another thing about, like, I don't know. I feel like that's another thing about music criticisms today. It's like everything is so polar. It's like if it's not fantastic, it's trash. You know what I mean? Like people don't want to just be like, oh, it was solid, it was cool. Like, oh, I can take it or leave it. It's just like everything is like, it's fucking trash. It's like it's not. Like, everybody, if you don't automatically outdo your last project, you fell off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've always hated how that's how people work. And that's very much the treatment that Eminem's got. And I think, like, his, like, legend status almost works to his disadvantage. Because it's like, he gave himself such a high ceiling so early.
Right.
And, like, now, unless he outdoes himself with every single fucking thing he does, everybody treats him like shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like that in every industry, not to, get too far off topic, but, with Kevin Hart just released a new comedy special. I went to see him over the summer last year when he was, practicing to get ready for the release of that special. So I didn't watch the final product on Netflix, but I saw it in person. I enjoyed it. I had a great fucking time seeing him, but from what I see, the final project didn't live up to, what he's done in the past. So people are like, oh, Kevin Hart fucking sucks now. I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, from what I heard, he did his comedy special in his living room with no crowd, no actual laughter. So it's like kind of difficult. Like, he was trying something new, so it didn't work out. He's Kevin fucking Hart. Shut the fuck up. He doesn't suck. Right. Fuck off.
Yeah, people were definitely kind of hard on him. I mean, I'm definitely somebody that I saw it, I watched it, and like I want to say, like, I legitimately walked into it ready to enjoy it. Like, I didn't walk in like, because I feel like a lot of people like listen to shit with their arms folded. Like, I feel like that's how, like, the treatment Eminem gets. It's like, all right, I'll listen to it, but they listen to it like this.
Yeah.
Like, you better fucking amaze me.
Yeah.
If it doesn't change their life within 2 minutes, like, oh, fuck this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, like, I try to be receptive to shit. Like, all right, let me just clear my mind. Let me act like I don't already have a preconceived notion about this person. And let me just enjoy it objectively and see how I feel. And the Kevin Hart special, I maybe laugh maybe twice.
Really?
Yeah, man. I don't know. It just didn't hit for me. Like the content, he did his normal Kevin Hart way of doing comedy, and I don't know. For me personally, it just did not hit, and I can see why people are let down. But I'm not. Am I going to write him off and be like, oh, he's trash, he's washed, quit? Like no.
Yeah.
But it's just like, yeah. I mean, it didn't deliver.
Yeah, I haven't gotten around to watching it. I've been meaning to, but I'm in the middle of watching Arrow right now. I'm way late to the party, but I'm fucking loving it. So I'm like, anytime I got a chance to watch TV, I don't want to like dive away from Arrow because I'm fucking loving it so much. But anyway, let's get back to rap. Top 5 favorite rappers of all time. Go.
Of all time, okay.
No, let me rephrase the question. Top 5 favorite artists now.
Okay.
Right now.
Are you sure? The second one, because
the second one.
Very different answers.
Yes, top 5 right now. Who are your top 5 go-tos on your drive to work?
Okay, right now, Freddie Gibbs is definitely probably my number. Yeah, I would say he's my number one. Let me think. Right now, who's heavy in my rotation? Travis Scott.
It's hard.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture my like Spotify playlist. I'm like, who the fuck am I listening to?
When you're put on the spot with this kind of shit, you kind of forget.
Right. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Let me think. Danny Brown.
Epic. I love that guy.
Definitely Danny Brown. Yeah. Tyler, the Creator. Still in my rotation heavy. And for number 5, Vince Staples.
Has Tyler put anything out recently?
No, not any like new like since Igor he hasn't. I mean, he's put out kind of just some like random one-off shit. Like he's kind of like he did a couple like features and songs with like like he did that song Potato Salad with A$AP Rocky.
Okay.
So like nothing very new, and he did some he did a feature on Freddie Gibbs' last album. So nothing super new, but like I'm still riding off of some of the old stuff.
What happened with the speaking of the old stuff with the rest of Odd Future? Like I haven't heard dick from Earl Sweatshirt in what seems like years. Has he completely fallen off? Has he stopped making music, or have I just not heard of anything?
You have asked the correct person, sir.
Yes, I believe I have.
I used to be an Earl Sweatshirt like groupie, heavy like. I was like, yo, when Earl decides to really dive into this rap shit, he's about to take over the fucking game.
Yeah.
So what happened with Earl was, so I watched an interview with him. Well, I've actually watched a couple interviews with him.
Because didn't he fall deep into like alcoholism? Didn't he get really fucked up with alcohol and go to rehab at some point?
Something like that. So like essentially what happened was he was just kind of fucking up and doing bad shit. So like his mom sent him away to like a behavior camp kind of
Because he's mad young, right? When Odd Future first took off, he was like 15, 16, right? Something like that?
Yeah, when his first album came out, Earl, he was like 15 or 16 years old.
Wow.
Which is what made it like stupid impressive.
Yeah.
Like his lyrical ability was like ridiculous.
Yeah.
So his mom sent him away to like this kind of behavioral camp in Samoa to like essentially like get his shit together. So when he came back, of course, in his time away, like Odd Future blew up. Like they became super popular. So essentially when he came back, he was already a celebrity. And like he put out, his album and his next 2 albums. But essentially what happened was like Earl is like a naturally like not that kind of person. Like he's not a very like extroverted or social line kind of a person. So essentially like he didn't want the career that was given to him when he got back. So him, like, the pressure of having to live up to the expectations of his career, like, fucked him up. Like, ruined his mental health. I think it kind of made him start, like, drinking and smoking and shit. And so, like, he just, like, got depressed. So, essentially, Earl stepped back from his career and started, like, he still makes music to this day. It's just not, it's just, like, you don't hear about it because, to be very honest, it's not good. Like, objectively, it's not. Like and that's coming from somebody who used to be like the biggest Earl fan in the world.
Yeah.
His stuff now is nothing like what he used to be. Like the last real album he made was in 2014 or 15. It was I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside.
Mm-hmm.
And it was dope. He ever since then he's made like 2 albums. Like it was like one was called like Some Rap Songs, and the last one was called Feet of Clay. And like his style now is just very different. It's like very like offbeat and like sludgy. Everything sounds very low quality and lo-fi.
Yeah.
It's like you gotta listen to it when we're done. Like
Yeah.
you gotta like go on whatever you use to listen to music and go to Feet of Clay by Earl Sweatshirt and just let it play. And you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
Yeah, because my memory of Earl Sweatshirt is I'm a hot and bothered astronaut, crashing while jacking off to buffering vids of Asher Roth eating applesauce. Like that type level shit. That's how I remember
And that's how we all
Earl
fell in love with him.
Sweatshirt. Right, yeah.
Like ass milk and shit like that.
Yeah. And
not anymore.
when Odd Future first came out, I was like one of those hipsters that was like anything that got big, I was like, fuck those guys. Except for Eminem, because my dick has always been hard for Eminem. But when Odd Future first came out, I was like, man, that shit's lame. Like their fucking Odd Future Wolfgang, whatever, that fucking acronym that was 40 letters long. I'm like, this shit is so fucking stupid. And then my one buddy who was so big on him was like, dude, trust me. Please, if you're gonna listen to anybody please just listen to Earl Sweatshirt. If you don't like anybody else, I'll let you have that, but you have to listen to Earl Sweatshirt. So back when they first came out, and he fucking sat me down, forced me to listen to it. I was like, all right, I'll give props to that guy. But looking back on it now as an adult who's not like, oh fuck anything that's popular, like
Right.
that shit bumped back in the day, and I'm drawing a huge blank on the rest of those guys' names. There was Tyler and Earl were the 2 big guys, and Frank Ocean was the singer, right? He was in Odd Future, correct?
Yes,
and
sir.
then
Haji Beats.
Haji Beats, yes. That was another guy who, when I got older and looked back on it, I was like, I fuck with that guy, Haji Beats.
Yeah,
I really liked him a lot. But what are the rest of those guys doing? I haven't heard shit from anybody.
Yeah, so they all kind of. I don't really know the full story of why they kind of split, but like, if you notice, like Tyler doesn't use like Odd Future, he doesn't use Wolfgang anymore.
Yeah,
like that's not a thing he says. Like he's still like his brand right now is golf.
Yeah,
and like but he doesn't use any of the like old like. Any of the old like terminology for them, but yeah,
they had a TV show all together at one point, right? Where they were kind of like pranking people. What was
Loader Squad?
Yes, Loader Squad.
So from my understanding, so Earl's story was that like he just wasn't fucking with fame anymore. He just didn't want to do it. He kind of wanted to just live his own life and do his own thing. From my understanding, I think Tyler and Haji had some sort of a falling out.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember what year it was, but I remember like I think Haji tweeted something about Tyler being like a sneak or something like that, and then Tyler responded by like something saying like essentially like, yo, you think like people would be grateful that you gave them a career, but they stab you in the back or some shit like that.
Yeah.
So from that, I kind of took it that just Haji and Tyler weren't on talking terms anymore. Damo Genesis was another one.
Mm-hmm.
His career kept going for a while. I think he had like a relatively big single with Anderson .Paak. Oh, God, I want to say it was like 2015 or 16 or something like that. He kind of kept it going. He had an album that came out that was pretty good. Mike G was another one. He was kind of like one of the more like low-key ones. He kept making music for a while, too, but it was really like under the radar. Of course, the internet, Sid the Kid, they got pretty big on their own.
Yeah.
And they kind of still have their own, like, life of their own. And that was pretty much it, man.
Yeah, so back when Odd Future was blowing up and Tyler the Creator was like the leader and the big name, and I was fuck those guys. I was real focused on underground rap. Hopsin was my dude, and then Hopsin dissed Tyler the Creator, and I was like, that was what got me really into Hopsin because I was so anti Odd Future. Like I found a guy that dissed him. Like Hopsin's my guy.
Yeah,
and I still like Hopsin to this day. He's mad corny, I will definitely admit, but I got a soft spot in my heart for him. But the funniest thing about Tyler the Creator, when I'm sure you remember this, but when Hobson dissed him, he made like a whole entire verse about Tyler, the Creator. And then Tyler, the Creator, in his next album, his only response to it was like, Goblin sucked? Yeah, right. I dropped that album and bought a house that night. And I was like, that's a great response. Like, that's so good.
He gave him very minimal attention on the whole entire thing. It was dope. It was
that's such a good thing. It makes somebody look so fucking stupid when you're like attacking them, and you just completely fucking ignore them.
Yeah.
Like right now in the fight game, I don't know how close you pay attention to fighting, but Jake Paul, the fucking douchebag YouTube kid, boxes now and he sucks. But he's like constantly calling out Conor McGregor, and he's like always posting about Conor McGregor, and he follows Conor McGregor's wife on Instagram, and he's DMing her, and he's posting all this stuff, and he has fucking airplanes flying by with Conor McGregor sucks signs behind him, and Conor has not said a fucking word, and it's making Jake look so fucking desperate. And then Conor McGregor got knocked out last week, and Jake was like, leading up to that point, was like all over the internet saying like, oh, Conor, if you fight me, I got people that'll pay you $50 million. Then he posted a video like, oh, Conor, you got knocked out. Now I'll only pay you 10 G's. You're not getting 50 million. And all the comments are like, dude, you're buying Conor's fights on pay-per-view. I promise you he's not buying yours. And he's just looking so fucking desperate at this point. And that's honestly the way to go when people are fucking with you. Just ignore them. Because they look desperate and retarded. Bro,
nowadays, like, the attention is the biggest currency, man. Like, people will do anything for attention. So, yeah, completely right. And, yeah, I have loosely been following all that. I guess that let me ask you a question. Since I know you're a big fight guy. I know you're super into MMA and everything. And I know that's been, like, a big part of your life for a while now, right?
Yes, sir.
Roughly how long would you say you've been, like, very into it?
So I started doing karate when I was like 3. Okay. And I did karate up until I was about 14 or 15. I got a 3rd degree black belt. And then my sensei, his wife at the time, beat the shit out of him with a baseball bat while he was sleeping. And like really fucked him up. So the school closed down for a long time. And, I'm 14, 15. Now I have more free time. I'm hanging out with my friends. The school reopened, and I was like, man, fuck that shit. I want to hang out with my friends and do hood rat shit. And then I watched a UFC fight and saw somebody get their arm broken. And I was like, I want to do jiu-jitsu. So one of my buddies had a cousin who fought professionally. So I started training with them in my buddy's garage doing jiu-jitsu. I want to say 9 or 10 years ago, something like that. Just, fucking around, never went to like an actual gym. But, taking fighting seriously and training seriously, I'd say probably 4 or 5 years that I've, really gotten big into it. And, I spar with guys that fight in the UFC. I spar with guys that fight for Glory, professional kickboxing, lion fight, professional Muay Thai. Like, I'm really big in it. So I'd say probably 4 or 5 years that I've gotten, like, really, really big into it.
Nice. Dope, man. Yeah. I saw. I've been watching over the years about you posting about your progress and your fights and everything, and that's super dope, man. I'm glad you're like taking it all the way. Seriously.
Thanks, man. Yeah. So what was your question?
I remember you had a fight out in like PA somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember because I was like, I actually, because when I saw you posting about like upcoming fights, I was like legitimately like, yo, if he has a fight somewhere where I can make it, I will go.
Yeah.
And that one was like super far away. And
I was it was like 3.5 hours out in like central Pennsylvania. It was a fucking pain in the ass to get to. Yeah.
Yeah. What I guess my question to you is like, I don't know, do you have an opinion about like people like Logan and Jake Paul kind of breaking into like fight sports and things like that?
I do have an opinion. So before I give my opinion, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fought as the co-main event on the card where Mike Tyson fought Roy Jones Jr. And then Mike Tyson came out and said like these guys are saving boxing. Mm-hmm. And I completely disagree with that because people that are watching Logan and Jake Paul box aren't going, hey, this sport's cool. Let me go watch Canelo Alvarez now. they are only watching it for Jake and Logan. So it's good for them, and it's good for the guys that get on those cards, and they're making a boatload of fucking cash. But they suck. Both of them suck. Logan Paul has not won a fight yet, and now he's fighting Floyd Mayweather. And people are actually thinking that he can beat Floyd Mayweather, the greatest that's ever done it. People are like, oh, Logan Paul, he's 50 pounds heavier. He can definitely do it. Like, when you're fighting the greatest of all time and you suck, no matter how big you are, no matter how hard you hit, you can't hit the guy. Manny Pacquiao, one of the greatest fighters of all time, could not hit Floyd Mayweather. And they're same size, same speed. Now this big, doofy fuck who's slow is going to hit Floyd Mayweather? Get the fuck out of here. It's never going to happen. Right. But, at the same time, they're making a fuckload of money. They're getting a fuckload of attention. So if I was in their position, I'd be doing the same thing. So I can't really hate on it too much. But I would love to fight one of those guys because I would beat the fuck out of both of them. I'd fight Jake, knock him the fuck out, go get a drink of water in the back, and then come out and fight Logan in the same night and beat both of them. No questions asked. And not only that, I used to talk a bunch of shit about Logan Paul, but Logan and Jake are both so polarizing that even if you fucking hate them, if you see their name on a fucking article, you click on it. It's like a car accident. You see it, you can't look away. You have to click on it. So over the years, as I've been following Logan closer and closer, he used to be a real big piece of shit. Like, he posted a video where he saw people hanging from trees in Japan with, like, the suicide forest, and he was making jokes about it.
That's the biggest thing I knew him for, honestly.
Yeah, that's how I found out about him. And, since then, he's kind of calmed down. He was like 22 years old when he posted that. He's getting older. He's becoming more mature. He's actually really fucking funny. I actually enjoy Logan Paul now. Jake is just unbearable. I hate that fucking guy. I cannot stand that fucking guy. I would fight that kid for free.
Logan's older, right?
Yeah, Logan's the older one.
Yeah, I thought so.
And I hate that I know so much about their lives because they're cocksuckers.
Right.
But, it is what it is. They're making, it honestly comes from a position of jealousy. They're both younger than me, and they're both multi millionaires. Hundreds of millions of dollars, because they act like scumbags on YouTube. So, hey man, if I gotta go make fun of people hanging from a tree in Japan to make $100 million, I might book a flight to Japan right now. And then just apologize for it afterwards, because people seem to forgive you if you just make an apology video. Right.
Cancel culture doesn't last very long.
Yeah, man, especially if you just apologize. People seem to be okay with apologies. Speaking of cancel culture, what are your thoughts on that? Like, cancel culture as a whole.
Okay, so I disagree with it, because I think it denies people the ability to change.
I totally agree.
I compartmentalize it. So I think it depends on what you've done. So, like, of course, I think certain things are not forgivable. Sexual assault, things like that.
Right.
Scumbag shit. Like, if you fucking, if you raped someone years ago, I'm okay with you being canceled, because it's just like, you don't deserve a platform anymore. But things like ignorant comments, like racist tweets and shit from when you were, like, younger and shit like that, I think cancel culture is too extreme for that. Like, so, like, because I look at it like, we all had a phase where we were trying to be a fucking edgelord. You know what I mean? Like, I think of the shit that I used to say back when I first got, I remember back when I was, like, I don't know, 18, 19, 20 years old, and I was in my like, quote-unquote emo phase and just fucking mad at the world. I said all kinds of dumb shit, I probably said shit that offended people. I was probably trying to be funny, trying to be edgy, trying to look like I didn't give a fuck. That's back in the phase when it was cool to not care. You know what I mean? So it's like, if I had shit held against me from that I said a decade ago, I'd probably get fucking canceled too if you look hard enough. You know what I mean? Like, like, even now, like, looking at my Facebook memory, sometimes the shit that I see is cringeworthy. You know? Like, so I went back to my Twitter one day and looked at some of the shit that I was tweeting in, like, 2012, and it was all fucking stupid and just, like, attention hungry. It's just like, so when it comes to shit like that, I don't really think people deserve to be canceled in, like, something that's just, like, ignorance that you can grow from.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to like super egregious, like, you know, you did harm type shit, I can more get behind it on that.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, like I don't like the idea of canceling people across the board because it denies people the ability to change. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has the ability to grow and become better people. And it's like, you know, like I look at it like a lot of people remember Malcolm X as Malcolm X. But before he was Malcolm X, he was Malcolm Little. And when he was Malcolm Little, he was a hood rat, a ne'er-do-well. He was doing bad shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was like what a lot of people would consider like, you know, no good, or like, you know, one of those kids that, you know, shouldn't be out running the streets and, you know, is a bad example.
Right.
He got his life together and became Malcolm X. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, if you only remember the early versions of people, you deny their ability to maybe turn into something great one day. It's kind of how I look at it.
And also, one of the things about looking at old tweets, if you look at, you know who the comedian Jim Jeffries is?
Yeah.
So he has a joke about that type of thing. He's like, you know, 10 years ago, the line was here. You know, and my joke was before the line. And now 10 years later, the line's here. So, like, if I would have said that today, that's fucked up. But back then, I didn't cross the line. You can't move the line and now 10 years later say that was fucked up, because at the time, I didn't cross any lines. You know, I'm a totally different person now than I was back then. Now that the line's here, I wouldn't go here. I would go here. Like, I'll get as close to the line as I can where the line is today. If the line moves, that's on you guys. Fuck off.
The cultural context matters, man. And that's what I mean about, like, being an edgelord, bro. Back when, like, Odd Future was first taking off, nobody said faggot more than me and my homies, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna let you know right now. Like, that was part of our everyday language. It's just how we were yelling at each other fucking across Walmart and shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's how people were moving back then, man. And, like, you know, like, gay jokes, shit like that, like, everything. Like, there was a phase where all the shit right now that we fucking clutch our pearls at was acceptable. You know, people were moving differently. So it's like, you can't hold people to standards today about the time that they were in then. You know what I mean? So it's, I don't know.
So you made a good point there, and it reminded me of something. So, said how you were saying, you know, faggot years ago. So what are your thoughts on white people saying the N-word in the context of a song? And what it reminded me of, Kendrick Lamar recently, I don't know if you saw the video, or I guess it was a year or so ago, you know, pre-COVID when there was concerts, he brought a woman up on stage, a white woman, to sing his song. And, you know, she had the microphone, she was rapping along to the lyrics, and she said the N-word, and he got really pissed off at her. And she was like, I was just singing your song. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So I'm a big proponent of just don't say it. Because I look at it like this. So, like, yeah, it is in songs. It is included in certain things. It definitely has been reclaimed. It has been reclaimed. It has become, like, kind of common slang. But, like, I look at it more like, why do you feel like you need to say it? Whenever I encounter, like, a white person that's like, why can't I say it?
That's an asshole.
I ask them, why do you want to say it in such a way that deconstructs it to a level that's like, all right, I think you understand why you shouldn't say it now. You know what I mean? It's like, if I ask you why you want to say it, okay, well, I got answers like, oh, well, because it's just slang. It's slang for who? Well, you can say it. Well, I'm black. Yeah, well, I just feel like it's just like, always like, it's never a good argument for why white people should be able to say it.
Anybody that looks a black man in the face and says, like, well, why can't I say it? You're a scumbag. You're an idiot.
Well, it's always like, it always boils down to, and what I've seen, it's always wanting to be part of the club. Is all I ever really see from white people. It's like, I want to be included. Yeah. I want to be a part of the cool thing, and it's the cool thing, and that's why I want to say it. That's what it boils down to in one way or another. And it's just like, of all the social advantages that you have in this world, let us just have this one thing. Yeah. You know, like, yeah, you can't say the N-word, but you can also get approved for a loan. Off just the looks. Right. You know, you can encounter the police and not have to worry about whether or not they're going to profile you that day. Right. So I think you not being able to say the N-word, I think you'll be just fine. Yeah,
there was a news report on, like, a local news station somewhere where one of the anchors was a black guy and the other anchor was a white guy, and this topic came up, and the white guy said, like, well, why can't I say it? And the black guy said, You can. You know, go ahead. Say it right now. And I think it was off camera that they then got on the discussion. Like the cameras were still rolling, but they were no longer live. And the white guy was like, "Well, I don't want to say it." And he's like, "Well, you're asking to say it. Say it. Go ahead. You're allowed to. Feel free." He's like, "I don't want to." Well, then why are you asking the question?
Exactly.
Right? But like, so in that context of that woman that was on stage with Kendrick Lamar, I think it was fucked up that he put her in that situation.
I agree.
But also, she should know what situation she's in. You know?
Both.
It was wrong on both ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah, both things can be true. Yeah, I think she should have known better.
Yeah.
And it was better to play it safe. You know,
Right. Better safe than sorry.
Like, nothing would have... it wouldn't have made the situation worse for her to just bleep that word out.
Yeah.
You know, to just skip it. But at the same time, it's like he did kind of put her in a very, like, situation where maybe her brain wasn't working the way it normally would.
Yeah, you know, she's all excited, like, oh, I'm on stage at a Kendrick Lamar concert, like,
exactly.
oh.
Like, she might have just got excited and lost track of where she was, but yeah, I would agree with that. I think in both cases it was a little off.
All right, I don't want to take too much more of your time. We're at over an hour 16. So before I let you go, tell everybody where they can find your music, where they can find you, your personal page, if you want to put that out there, your music pages, all that stuff. Where can everybody find you on all the different platforms?
Absolutely. So my name is G Willikerz, G-Willikerz, G Willikerz on Instagram. G Willikerz, as I just spelled it, on all social platforms. Look out for the bottle cap logo. I just put out a new album in December called The Second. It is my sophomore album. My first album is called Odds and Ends, also on all major platforms. Listen to it, hit me up, let me know your listening experience. I am literally willing to speak to anyone about it. I've spoken to good friends, strangers. I legitimately want to know what you think, what your favorite song was, how it made you feel. Take me on the ride with you.
Awesome. My favorite song was Tough Guy.
Ooh.
Why
is that?
The beat, when it first started, I was like, ooh, I like this. And then you fucking just went in. I loved it. Like, right, like, I listened to the whole album, and once that song came on, I was like, you know, I was doing some stuff in my room. I had the music on my laptop. And once I heard that, immediately caught my attention, the beat, like, right at the beginning. My head turned to the laptop, and I went and sat down. I'm like, all right, I got to pay closer attention to this one. This one's fucking good. Awesome.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Love the music. Everybody go check him out, please. Thank you for doing this, man. Let's do it again sometime. This is awesome.
Absolutely. I appreciate you doing this, man, for real.
Fuck yeah, man. Can you do me a favor, though?
Yes.
So whenever I have guests, they tend to not share the episode that they were on. Can you share this, like the video and the audio when I post it, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Wait, really? People do that?
Yeah.
Oh, bro, yeah, no, I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do all the promo shit.
I'm like,
yeah, bro, I got you.
It always confuses me. I'm like, why did you come? Like, don't you want people to hear what you just talked about? Like, it's weird. Like, I literally have to beg, like, send it to people. Like, please post this, and then they'll just ignore me. I'm like, this is fucking. Why'd you come on? You fucking asshole.
Oh no, bro! You don't gotta worry about me doing that. Trust me, I want people to get the word out. So again, I appreciate you putting me on your platform in the first place, for real.
All right, bro. Thank you. Thanks for coming on.
All right, man. Have a good one. Peace.
Later, bro. You too. Gee, well, guys, go check him out. That's all I got for you. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.